symbol map, which is more common, and we want to do circles, and then maybe we want to size sales by circles as well, we can do something like that. If I want to undo that and just keep it as my filled map, then I can hit Control Z a couple times, and I'm back with my filled map. Okay? Simple as that. If you want to create a dual axis map, you can hold down, first of all, I'm going to change my color because I don't like green. Colorblind people can't see greens and reds very well. Better practice is to use grays and blues and oranges typically. Tableau is kind enough to help us out with a colorblind color palette, and they have very good colorblind things. If you notice Tableau's color, like their logo, it's colorblind friendly. Like everyone can see it. All right, so if I want to change my colors from green, I'm going to hover over this legend and click on the drop down. There are a lot of ways to do everything in Tableau. That's one way. Another way is to click on this color icon. So we're going to click on one of those and go to Edit Colors. I'm going to change my background color to gray. Click Apply. Now I've got a beautiful gray map. All right, if I want to create a dual axis map, what this does is it basically plops one map on top of another map. It's one of my favorite chart types with Tableau, and it's easy to do. When we want to take a copy of something within our data, within our view, say I want to take a copy of latitude and drop it next to itself, I hold down Control and I click it, and then I drop it next to itself. And that will take a copy of it and drop it next to itself. This will create one map on top of another map. When I do that, I get multiple mark cards. What is a mark card? It's this thing. I get a mark card that will change everything. I also get a mark card that is tied to this map here, and a mark card that's tied to this map at the bottom. I can click on the second mark card. It's called Latitude Generated 2. Click on that, and here I can change my, first of all, I'm going to take sales off of color. So I'm going to click on sales, drop it off of my view. Pull it off. Now I just get little circles. All right, if I want to look at profit on the second map, I would take profit to color, and then I take profit to size. So when I do that, Tableau guesses. He probably wants a simple map, a circle, and they guessed right. So I can then click on size and maybe I want to make those a little bit bigger. All right. I can then change the color on this one. Again, clicking the drop down. Click on the color, go to Edit Colors, and I'm going to change my color palette to orange, blue, diverging. And that will give me a diverging color scale between orange and blue. I'm going to apply that. Gives me mostly blues. Okay? Then we'll click OK. All right, next step. This is how we create our dual axis map. We right click on the second measure and go down to dual axis here. So right click to bring up your menu, select dual axis. And there we have one map that's plopped on top of another map. We can tell which states have a lot of sales. We can tell which states are profitable as well, and which states are unprofitable, like Montana and Tennessee.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
With data visualization best methods like avoiding the color blindness problem, a lot of companies use red, yellow, green reporting. That's pretty common. How do you figure that out, basically? Because a lot of companies like to see green and red, red bad, green good.
Yeah, I usually use like blue good, orange bad. They're kind of like those, except colorblind people can see them. If you explain that in your dashboard, green is for the good numbers, blue is for the good numbers, orange is for the bad, people aren't going to have that much trouble figuring it out unless you have dumb people at your company. But, all right. Other question?
I guess where's the dual layering?
You right click on the second measure and check the box for dual axis. Got it? Okay. All right, moving on. If I want to do something awesome to this, like make it change over time, I can do that too. What I'm going to do for that is I'm going to take order date to pages. I took my order date up here to the pages shelf. Now I'm going to right click on this order date. I don't want to look at this by year. I want to look at it by, and this is a little bit tricky, so right click it. You can look at it by year, but I don't want to. Right click your year of order date. Go down to where it says more, under that top section, and go to custom. So I'm right here. Right click on your year of order date, go down to where it says more for the first time, choose custom. For the detail, change it from years to month and year. This will give us every month of each year within our data set. So choose month, year, click OK. All right, now we've got some animation. So we've got this play button within Tableau. I can choose the speed right here. The 3 bars is faster, the 2 bars is medium, and the 1 bar is slow. And I can just click play and watch my visualization change over time. It's going through each month. It tells me what month, June 2010, July 2010. Now my chart is changing based on what month we're looking at. And I can speed that up, make it go faster. That's a little too fast, right? A little fast. All right, so we can keep it slow. Maybe I'll start where we were. So we've got a dual axis map with motion. Pretty awesome. Da-da-da. All right. I'm going to name my sheet. I'm going to call it dual axis map with motion. Okay. I'm going to stop that. It's starting to annoy me. All right. I'm going to open up a new sheet. I'm going to show you guys a little bit about parameters. So open up a new sheet. Name it, let's call it dynamic measure selection. Okay? There are 4 rules to creating a parameter. I'll write these up. Step 1 is you've just got to create the parameter. Create it. 2, you've got to show it. Step 3, you've got to use it in a calculated field. And step 4, you've got to use that calculated field somewhere within your view. All right. Those are the 4 steps to creating a parameter. What we're going to do is build something like that little measure selector that I was showing you, where you change passing yards to rushing yards and your view changes. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Okay. Step 1, we're going to create it. How do we create a parameter? We can right click in any white space that we have within our data window, or the always tried and true method is the little drop down arrow next to our dimensions. Right there. So click there or right click in a white space and go to create parameter. Okay? I'm going to call this parameter measure selector. Okay? For my data type, I'm going to choose string. What is a float? Float is a number with a decimal. What is an integer? It's a whole number. String is alphabetical data. Date is obviously a date. Boolean is true, false. I'm going to select string. I'm going to choose list. And as my first value, I'm going to call it value S. And I'm going to display that as sum of sales. I'm then going to create a value P, and I'm going to call that sum of profit. The next value on my list is going to be value UP, and I'm going to call that average unit price. And next up, we're going to do SC, And I'm going to call that average shipping cost. I'll give you guys a second to catch that up. We created a new parameter by right-clicking somewhere in white space and going to create parameter, or we went to the drop-down arrow next to dimensions. We named it measure selector. Data type is string. We're going to do sum of sales, and then input those values the same way that I have. This is what it's going to show in our parameter control. That's going to appear at the upper right when we show it. This is what we're going to use in our calculation. We need to match those values up perfectly to show those, to get this to work. So a parameter is a dynamic control that we can have over our visualization. All right, click OK once you're ready with that. That created a new parameter, and it dropped it down into my parameter section in the bottom left. All right, next step. Does anyone remember what it was? Show it. All right, so I'm going to right-click my measure selector parameter, and I'm going to go up here. Second option is show parameter control, and I can click that and change things, but doesn't actually do anything yet, right? It's like a body without a soul. We got to breathe life into it with our calculated field. So what we're going to do, we're going to right-click on order date, and first drag that up to columns. When we right-click and drag things, it brings up all of our options that we have to interact with that. So I right-clicked on order date and I dragged it up to my columns. And now I'm going to choose my green continuous month of order date right here.
How'd you get the drop field? Wait, how'd you get that?
If you guys did it the other way, just drop order date on the columns and I'll show you how to fix it after the fact. If you right-clicked it and dragged it, you can do it this way and just double-click on month. If you drag something else and you have a different formatting, you can right-click on that order date and choose the type of order that you want. These top ones are discrete order dates. They behave similarly to dimensions. They create buckets. If we had a discrete month of order date and we have 4 years of data, it would put all 4 years into the bucket for each month. So if we had the month of May as a discrete order date, it would have all of our months of May into one bucket. If we have the continuous month of order date, it works like a timeline. It creates an axis for us, and there we could see what's happening at a specific moment in time. That's the difference between these blue discrete date fields and these green continuous date fields. It's a little bit tricky. I don't have a ton of time to spend on that, but hopefully it makes a little bit of sense, the difference. All right. If you need to change it after the fact, go down and select this second month of order date right here. Okay? Choose that option. You should have something that looks like this with a bunch of just lines. All right. Our third step in creating a parameter is to create a calculated field that references our parameter. So here's a little bit about calculated fields. We're not going to get into it a ton, but to create a calculated field, we create it in the same way that we created our parameter. So we can click on this drop down and go to create calculated field. Got it? Create calculated field, it brings up this menu. The menu for calculations is going to change with version 9 as well, but the idea is the same. They're going to have like an autofill and some other elements. All right. I'm going to name this calculated field my measure selector. And I'm going to do a calculated field that says case. So this is a logical function. It's a case statement. Some of you might be familiar with case statements from other places. Case, and then I'm going to select my parameter by double-clicking it right here in this parameters shelf. So double-click your parameter. It shows up as purple. Parameters are purple. Case of measure selector. So based on what's in the measure selector, we're going to give it parameters to apply to our view. So case of measure selector, I'm going to do a new line. You don't have to do it this way. And I'm going to do when, and put S in quotes because it's a string. When S, then give me my sum of sales. When P, then give me my sum of profit. When UP, then give me my average, and then I'm going to select unit price, and it's got to be in brackets. Any field with 2 words in it has to be in brackets instead of just parentheses. So that had to be in brackets and parentheses. And then when ST, then I want my average shipping cost. All right. And then what else do I need to do to this?
End.
Got to end it. Tableau is kind. They give me an indication that tells me my calculation is valid. If my calculation is invalid, and it's saying like expecting closing parentheses, you're missing a parenthesis somewhere. If it's saying you can't do like an aggregate and non-aggregate data source.
Can you show that part above again?
Yeah. I'll zoom into all of it. There you go. So what this is doing is it's saying, give me these different values based on what I have selected in my parameter. Remember when we created the parameter, we gave it those different values. S is tied to sum of sales, P is tied to sum of profit, and here we're tying them together with that SP, UP, and SC field. Does it kind of make sense what's going on here? It might be like kind of magic to you. All right, ready to move on? Almost.
Can you repeat why the brackets?
Why the brackets? So, yeah, as a best practice, it's good to just select each of your fields from your available fields, and that way it'll get the formatting right. When you have just one word as your field name, all you need are parentheses because it's not going to mistake what that field name is. If there are 2 words in the field name, it could potentially mistake that to be something else. So it's just a way to clarify the fact that, okay, we want all of this, both of these words, put it in brackets, and that's what you're telling Tableau. So, all right, moving on. Click OK. So now we have a calculated field called measure selector. It's in our measures. So right here, within our measures, we have measure selector. So we can click on that measure selector, drag it and drop it into our rows. Remember, that's step number 4. We've got to use our calculated field somewhere in our visualization. Okay, now I've got this measure selector. Now as I change my parameter, my chart changes too. If I wanted to, let's see, what else could we do with this? We could drag region to color. That'll give us a unique color for each region. That's a little messy though. Take ship mode to color. Take ship mode to color, it's a little bit cleaner. Now based on my ship mode, for some reason, my shipping costs more for delivery truck than regular air. Sometimes these data sources indicate that this is a fake data source. So, but again, as I select my measure selector, my view changes. A little Jedi level hack for this is, if you don't like the fact that your axis label is not dynamic, you can make it dynamic by taking your measure selector parameter from your parameters up here on your row shelf to the left of your measure selector measure. All right, so I can click on this parameter, drag it, and drop it up to the left of this measure selector. And now I get sum of sales as my axis label. I can format this a little bit more to make it look even better. So I can right click where it says sum of sales and go to rotate that label. That'll rotate it along vertically. I can then right click on my axis here, go to edit axis and remove the title measure selector right here. Just get rid of that title altogether. Click OK. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click where it says measure selector here. When in doubt, always right click. And then we're going to choose hide field labels for rows. And now not only is my visualization dynamic, but my label is dynamic also. And we've got a dynamic parameter. Woo! Woo! Fancy. All right. Let me show you guys a couple of other chart types. Let me see what we have time to cover. We've got
about an hour.
Yeah, we'll probably end in about 45, 50 minutes. All right. Next, open up a new worksheet. Hopefully everyone got it to work. One thing that we could do is I could send a copy of this workbook out to Venna or somebody, and then everyone could have that. All right, moving on. Let's create a bar and bar chart. So I'm going to type in bar and bar as my sheet name. Okay. Be sure to save these things. Tableau does not have an autosave.
How do you save? File?
Control S is the hotkey. Go to File, Save As. We have different file types, so you can. We'll give it a name first. Let's call it BYU demo or whatever. And then you can choose the file type to save it as. A TWB file will just only save the elements that are needed to create your visualization. If you do a TWBX file, it will package within it the actual data so you can share it along with the data. The TWB, if you're trying to share that, you're assuming that the person you're sharing it with has access to the same data that you have. A TWBX packages the data. So different advantages to each of those. I'll save it as a TWBX file so I can share it with y'all. Okay. All right, we're going to create a bar and bar chart. I'm going to take category to rows. Category to rows. Then we're going to take sales to columns. Then we're going to sort that in descending order. A bunch of places to sort. We can sort with the one-click icons. They appear when we hover over our axes. It will pop up, or it's always up here in the top in the toolbar. The other place we can sort is with category. We can right-click on category. We can actually choose what we're sorting by. If you want to sort by something other than sales, you can right-click category and do that. All right, I'm going to sort these in descending order by clicking the little downward sort. All right, next up, I want profit to appear on the same axis. I'm creating what's called a combined axis chart type with Tableau. So I'm going to take profit, drag it and drop it on this x-axis, right on top of sales or anywhere. As long as I have these two rulers that tell me I'm in the right place, that's where I want to drop profit. So click on profit, drag it and drop it, and we're telling it to share the same axis. That's effectively what we're doing. All right, so now we get profit and sales both on the same axis. Next thing I want to do is, if I'm going to create a bar and bar, I want them both to show up on the same row. So I'm going to take measure names off of rows, and that's stacking our profit and sales. How do we know that? We can clarify them by clicking on measure names within our data and dragging that to color. That will give us a unique color for each of those. But the problem with this is that it is stacking profit on top of sales. So what I'm going to do is go to Analysis and select Stack Marks. Go to Analysis, select Stack Marks, turn Stack Marks to off. Okay? So what that does is it tells Tableau to start both from point 0. So it starts them both from 0. Next step is I'm going to take measure names from my dimensions shelf up to my size. So measure names to size. All right, that looks kind of ugly. We got to fix our colors. So typically with a bar and bar, I want a lighter color in the back and a darker color in the front. So I'm going to go to this measure names legend down here. Click on the little drop down arrow that shows up when we hover over it, and go to edit my colors. And here I can select different color palettes. I'm going to choose my Tableau 20 color palette. I'm going to click on profit. Maybe I'll make that orange. And I'll click on sales and maybe I'll make that light blue. Make it whatever colors you want. Click apply if you want to double check that that worked correctly, and then you can click OK to confirm those changes. All right, so that's a bar and bar chart. What are some other uses for this type of chart? You might want to compare two values that kind of fit together. You also might want to show progress towards a goal. Like if you have a sales quota and then actual sales for your company, you might show the sales quota as the bigger line, and the current sales progress towards that goal as the smaller line. Okay? All right, that's a bar and bar chart for Tableau. I build these fairly often for clients. It's a good, simple way to visualize data. All right.
Hey, for us, while we got that, maybe can you show like how to write in comments, call outs, and things like that?
Sure. If I want to create like a visual group of, comments, that's easier than some other things. So I can right click on this point, and I can go to, right click on any point, and go down to annotate, and you can say point, and then you can call that out, and you can say, binders are, I don't know, selling better than they were, I don't know. Put in whatever you want.
Where did you put right click?
So if you want to annotate a point, you can right click on a specific point and it will annotate that point. If you want to right click on an area, you can just right click and go to annotate. You can right click anywhere on your view and go to annotate area, and you can type in a message. Click OK. That will create a little annotation for you. And you can add that in wherever you want, drag it around, you can format it. Anyway, yeah.
What's the difference between a mark and a point?
A mark is, so when we annotate a mark, I don't get that choice when I don't have anything. Annotate mark, I don't know, let's try it. So there we get that. I don't think there's any difference in this specific case. I don't know. That's the difference. I haven't used annotate mark hardly ever. I've used annotate point a decent amount. Good question though.
I have a question.
Sure.
So we took the measure names that was on rows and dragged it out and just kind of got rid of it.
Yeah.
As one of the steps. I kind of didn't follow. Why was it there? Did it automatically get populated?
Yeah, it did. Measure names and measure values. Like, I'll talk about it briefly, but they're automatically generated fields that Tableau creates that allow us to include multiple measures within our view. So measure names are the names of each measures, but they work as like discrete elements, or they work kind of more like dimensions, and that's why it's in dimensions. That way when I color by measure names, it gave me two distinct colors. If I were to color by measure values, it would have colored on a gradient scale like all of our other measures. Measure values are just the values that are tied to those measures. It's based on whatever measures are within our view. So if we were to look at another example of this, I'll just demo it briefly. I can open up a new sheet and say I want to take state to rows, and then I want to take sales to text. If I then want to get profit to show up on this view with my sales text, it's a little bit tricky, but I need to engage